Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fitaurus Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fitaurus. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this Saturday we have Samurai Aces, Psikyo's first shoot 'em up, released in 1993. It's recently been ported to the Nintendo Switch. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. So as we start the game, we're given our difficulty selection. It goes all the way down to 1, difficulty of monkey, all the way up to 7, very hard. Today we'll be looking at the game on the very middle difficulty 4, which is still considered easy. After we select our difficulty setting and start the game, we're given the option of choosing between 6 different characters. We're going to pick Gadget Gen today. But before we jump into the game itself, let's take a quick second to look at the other characters we could have possibly picked. So first, there's Jane the Ninja. Jane flies on this Da Vinci-style hang glider. Then we've got the Turbo Monk Tengai riding on the back of this giant bird. Then there's Ultra Genius Keno, the dog, who flies in something that looks like an F-22 Raptor. Then we have Flush, the samurai, flying in a Japanese Shinden. We've got Holy Tomboy Miko, who flies in this dual-engine biplane-like aircraft. And lastly, we have Gadget Gen, flying in, yep, that's right, an X-Wing. And that's why we picked him. It's just too awesome to not be flying in something like this. So, those are our characters, one of the strongest spices I feel this game has. Let's dive into the gameplay itself. So, Samurai Aces, or Sengoku Aces, as it's known in Japan, is a relatively standard vertical scrolling shoot 'em up. We have our shots, we have our bombs, although each character has their own different and unique bomb. I'll go over the other characters' bombs in just a second here. And each character also has the ability to, instead of shooting rapid fire, charge up a shot and release a powerful charge shot. Though that does come with a relatively heavy penalty. It takes a long time to charge up that charge shot. 4 seconds to be exact. In the main phases of the stage, you could be losing a lot of time shooting the small fry enemies, and since most of them don't take that much to take out in the first place, it really seems like a waste. But after this boss goes down, let's take a quick second to have a look at some of the other characters' bombs. So we've got Jane the Ninja, who has this beautiful pedal dance that she rains down on the enemies, dealing heavy damage. The Tomboy Miko goes and fires off this Omikuji-style charm that explodes into this giant electrical field, though it doesn't deal as much damage as you would think it should do. And then we also have Flush, the samurai, who uses this like samurai sword to go and send after image of himself at the enemies that deals rather good damage. And of course, our buddy Gen here, his bomb is to send the little robot buddy he has on his back, or rather giant versions of them, at the enemy to do a strafing bomb run. So in addition to those spices, we also have a power-up system. We start at a base power of 1, and we can power all the way up to a power of 4. But one major complaint I do have about the game is that that power reverts after a set period of time. I know you can look at it as kind of just a temporary upgrade, but if you're surviving without getting hit, it just feels like such a slap to the face to have your power just degrade over the course of time. The game structure itself, we have a total of 4 possible stages that we can see in the first 3 stages of the game, and those come up in a random order. It doesn't matter which character you pick, they'll always be random. And then after that, there are 4 stages that come in a set order. Also, one thing that changes at that point, if we were to continue now, we would continue right where we start. But if we continue after hitting stage 4, we're set back to the beginning of the stage, at least in a single-player game. Of course, the rules are different if you're playing multiplayer. So the game itself bears a lot of similarities to other titles that the team worked on before they formed Psikyo. So they were part of Video Systems, and the title that the team developed before they left Video Systems was Aero Fighters, a title that this game bears a lot of similarities to. Very similar power-ups, the progression and the way that the enemies work and the looping system is all there and present. One thing that is different, though, is the settings and like the characters as well. Though there were characters in Aero Fighters, I really appreciate like the bizarreness that some of the characters bring to Samurai Aces here. And then there's, like I said, the setting itself. So we're set in this sci-fi Sengoku period where everything is like feudal Japan, but we've got these technological wonders, like we're chasing down this flying castle, we're flying in a replica, although it's like kind of a cheap barrel-driven replica of an X-Wing. And that's one of the strengths of the game itself, is just seeing these like bizarre like, enemies that you wouldn't necessarily expect to find in a shoot 'em up, where we're going and fighting giant mecha ninja. It really helps give this game a unique feel, despite being relatively generic vertical scrolling shoot 'em up. So let's talk a little bit about the minus flavors that the game has. So my biggest gripe is the power-up system. So right now I'm sporting level 4, but it just degraded to level 3. Beautiful timing. I couldn't have like timed it better on myself if I actually had been aiming to do so. That's something that's really like frustrating. And then there's the slow charge time. So each character has this unique charge shot that's really neat and would be great to use, but the problem that we have is a 4-second charge time doesn't allow for a lot of use of that. It takes too long to charge it up, so you're not going to be able to get much use on it against the base stage itself, and for the bosses it's just better to go and use your main shot or bombs. And then like slow movement as well. A lot of the ships have a little bit of slower speed than I would like, but that's less of a complaint. Now the plus flavors. So I really like the random stage selection that Psikyo games are like known for. Having those first few stages always be a little bit different presents like a different experience every single time you go through the game. And then there's the characters. I really do like shoot 'em ups that give you the option of picking between different characters that have different play styles. Some that have like really spread weapons, some that have really close weapons. Took a continue there. Oops. And it just adds that much more flavor to it, even if the game itself doesn't have a whole lot of story to it. I mean, there's those little cutscenes between each stage, but those are more humorous than anything else, really. And then lastly, like this bizarre, like sci-fi Sengoku like feeling setting. Just like I said, really sets the game apart to go and be fighting these mecha ninjas in this castle with this awesome like sound effect as they pop in there, the way that ninjas are like known for. So it takes something that's very similar and familiar, and it just adds that fun flavor. Here we have to fight all 4 of those like sub-boss mecha ninjas that we're seeing throughout the course of the game at the same time. If you were to go and let them live, then you would be facing all 4 at like once, which is not what we want. So at the end, I'm definitely going to recommend this one to fans of shoot 'em ups. If you haven't had the chance to go and play it already, the Switch version is very accessible. You can play it with either the Japanese turned on if you want to go and see the Japanese text, or if you want to see the English translation, you can go that route as well. So In the end, the taste of Samurai Aces is something that's very familiar. It's like a staple, but at the same time, it's got this unique spice and sweetness to it that's unlike anything else that's really out there. So, that'll just about wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for coming out and joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.